Okay, welcome back to Combat Mission Cold War British Army of the Rhine. This has just dropped, the new module. You can get it on Steam and Matrix Games, and I thought a good way to cover the release would be to just go over all the kit, or all the kit. I'm pretty sure this is everything. We've got quite a big line of stuff to go over. Just to go over all the kit and say this is what is these are the new toys that we're getting in the new module. There's also campaign, scenario, master maps, all that stuff, but this is obviously a lot easier to cover, and honestly it takes me about a week to make a proper AAR, and I kind of want to do this in a day, so we're going to do this. Obviously the three big things are the British, the Canadians, and the VDV, the Soviet Airborne. They've all been added in, but the Americans and the bog standard Soviet Army have got a couple new toys as well, so we're going to look at them. Noticeably, this is some of a chunk that I've cut down from the BATUS terrain. BATUS stands for British Army Training Unit Suffield, if I've remembered that correctly. This is a big chunk of Canadian prairie which was used by the British Army for training. So it's kind of the British equivalent of the NTC, except it's just steppe or veldt or prairie rather than desert. I've mostly picked that to show off the new stuff because there's a slightly more contrast than being against the green German tile set, but also because you get the BATUS camo for the Brits, which I think is cool. I like that. That also means that the Sheridan here is in good old desert MERDC, Murdoch. I don't know how to pronounce it. Almost but not quite chocolate chip camo. So yeah, what is the Sheridan anyway? Sheridan's a light tank. So this is the M551A Sheridan. It's a light tank. It was used by airborne units off the top of my head, amongst other things. It is very, very lightly armored. You can see down the bottom it's only vaguely protected against small arms and nothing else. And it only weighs 15 tons, but it's pretty snappy and it has a giant gun on it. This is a 152 millimeter, I believe it's smoothbore gun. Off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the same one that's on the M60A2 Starship. So you can fire Shillelagh ATGMs, which it's got 9 of. Then you have heat and HE, but also canister. So you have a 152 millimeter canister, which is insane. Just looking at that kind of barrel and thinking that needs a shotgun shell. Also obviously got the a very distinctive cupola, kind of armored box type thing for the commander who's got his 50 there. So yeah, a really interesting piece of kit. You can kick it out the back of aircraft, that kind of thing. Then we have, for the Soviet Army, we have two new T-64s. One of the things that BAOR does is extends the time period, so we get 2 extra years. Vanilla Combat Mission Cold War goes from 1979 to 1982. BAOR adds 1977 and 78. So we have an earlier variant of T-64A, which has the gill plates on the side. And does this one have smoke launchers? No, it doesn't. Then we have another one, which is the same thing basically, but in 1980, which does have smoke launchers, doesn't have the gills. has a kind of rubberized track skirt that's trying to do the same thing. So they are just T64s. T64 grogs will know more about the minor differences between all the different variants. The gilt stuff is definitely very distinctive, so at least you can tell which one that is. Moving on to the Brits. So that's all the stuff for the original factions. I'm going to kick off with the infantry weapons. We have the SLR, otherwise known as the stupidly long rifle. So this is a proper battle rifle. It's the Fabrique Nationale FAL, otherwise known as the right arm of the free world. 7.62, the variant used by the British and the Canadians later down, is semi-automatic only. So this is going to be really interesting when we pit it up against stuff like the Soviets. There is this kind of undercurrent, should we say, debate about small arms tactics where, you know, when you need to suppress the enemy, what's more important, accuracy or volume of fire? The SLR very firmly comes down on the British musketry tradition of accurate, effective riflemen, which means you don't need to go fully auto and you use a big boy bullet. By this time, the Americans and the Soviets have transitioned onto intermediate cartridges and assault rifles with the M16 and the AK-74. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Brits stack up. You can also see on this recon team leader here, when he actually gets his rifle out again and puts his binos down, he's got a night sight on his individual weapon. So we have limited night vision, which is, you know, could be well, it's not that much of a big deal, I guess, in Cold War, because night vision is quite rare. The helmet grogs will also have spotted here that we have two different helmets. We have these guys with the scrim helmets. This guy has an M72 Law, which I can never remember the British designation for. Oh, it's just a Law here. Okay, whatever. Yeah, these guys are normal infantry. These guys over here, with the slightly different helmet, are paras. So British Airborne is in as well. They don't have the same kind of fun toys as the VDV. They're basically high-quality light infantry. Also worth noting is that everybody comes with combats with camouflaged trousers. In the when you're in Germany, they have just or normal infantry has these green trousers when they're over at Battus, because that's just how it is. What else have we got with these guys? That's about it. Moving on, squads also get the Gympie down at section level. So yeah, 7.62 belt fed. It's the FN mag to the Americans. It's the M240. Still in use. Great piece of kit, or so I've heard. And yeah, that's your MG at squad level. So you have actually a pretty similar squad level firepower distribution that you have with the British World War II sections. You just now have a better section level machine gun with the Gympie, which is now bed fed instead of magazine fed like the Bren was, and you have semi-automatic instead of bolt action rifles as the individual weapon. So again, there's a lot of continuity there, which may not bode well. Also at section level, though, we have the mighty Carl Gustav. So this is kind of, it's making a comeback, is the Charlie G, but it was kind of, in very, very simple terms, it's sort of the Western NATO, or I should say Swedish, because the Swedes made it, equivalent to the RPG-7. So it's a reusable anti-tank weapon. You can engage out to 700-800 meters. You only get heat rounds for BAOR. Modern variants, from the global war of terror, Afghanistan, Iraq, and things. You can have other sexier ammunition types like air bursting rounds and things like that. Very heavy piece of kit. It is a recoilless rifle, essentially. If you stand behind it when it goes off, you will die. If you fire it too many times, you will start bleeding from your soft tissues. It's very aggressive. Very aggressive. But there's one per section, so you get 3 per platoon, and it will mess up Soviet armor. So very going to be interesting to see that in action. Who are you guys? Ah, the snipers. I actually can't remember. I'm not up on my sniper weapons. This is an L2A, what, L4A1? Am I looking at the right guy? No, he's over here. I put like individual squads out from the special teams, so that's why all the guys are mixed up. Yeah, there we go. I want to say it's a Lee Enfield that's been accurized and rechambered in 7.62 NATO. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Finally, for the smaller, like section-based weapons, it's our old pal, the 51mm mortar, or the 2-inch. This is literally the same weapon that the Brits have at platoon level in World War II. Because evidently it was really useful. As you can see, it has not a lot of ammo. We've got 8 HE bombs and 6 smoke bombs, but you'll be glad to know almost all of the British infantry is tooling around in the FV432s, like the APCs, and the platoon leader versions of those with the peak turret, which we'll get onto, have extra 51mm ammo in their inventory, so you're not necessarily going to run out immediately if you have one of them available. He's also modeling the Sterling SMG, which is great for storming. Well, you've got a source of automatic fire in 9mm. If you need to shoot any pesky rebels, you can use that to blast them, etc., etc. Useful, obviously one of the problems with the SLR is that it is massive. Oh, this guy, I should point out, has the suit sight on it, which is like a SUSAT, but upside down. It's got a very weird, the sighting unit has a chevron that comes down to the top, which is very weird. It got copied by the Soviets into the 1P29 for the AK. I don't know, I can't remember the designation, but they basically just stole it completely. Where were we? Yeah, the Sterling. It's basically a Sten gun, but it works. It's also carried as the backup weapon, I should say, for the Carl Gustav gunner. So every section should have that, and should have 1 Sterling and 1 GPMG as automatic weapons to supplement the SLRs. So they're not completely toothless in the full auto capacity, but we'll see. Speaking of something that is completely toothless, this is Blowpipe. It is a man-portable surface-to-air missile. So Blowpipe uses Mach loss guidance, which means that the gunner has to keep the target in their sights, fire the missile, and then and then he has like a little joystick or some kind of other control where he, instead of the missile going to where the crosshairs from the launch unit are or automatically tracking the target, he has a little joystick or buttons or whatever, and he flies the missile into the target. So he has to simultaneously keep his eye on the missile and the target and keep them both in his field of view. It's very difficult to hit anything. It was quite very difficult to hit anything without a high level of training when it was used as an anti-tank weapon, like the 83 Saga that the Egyptians used in 73 in the Yom Kippur War after they crossed the Suez Canal. Trying to use something like that to hit a low-flying, fast-moving aircraft, I mean, I don't know what they were smoking. Just another mystery of British Army procurement. So it has a pretty bad reputation. SAMs in combat mission are always pretty, I want to say screwy, but you don't really know what's going on and how effective they're being unless they actually hit something. So it's kind of hard to value. But yeah, not the best weapon ever. Moving on from anti-air, we have anti-tank. This is the Wombat, which is a 120mm recoilless rifle. So I have no frame of reference for this apart from an old TV series on I can't remember which channel it was on UK TV called Bad Lads Army, where they basically got a load of miscreants and put them through 1950s era national service training. And one of the punishments, if you annoyed the training corporals, was that they would get you to hold a Wombat round for an extended period of time. So yeah, very heavy, very difficult to maneuver around. It's basically an anti-tank gun, or an anti-tank gun analog. That said, it's 120mm, which is a nice chunky nice chunky caliber. It fires Hesh, which is a kind of weird British favorite. The way Hesh works is basically the front end of the shell. It's just a wodge of plastic high explosives, and when that hits the target, it pancakes onto it, and then it detonates, and the shock waves. It doesn't actually penetrate the armor. The shock waves go through the armor, and it knocks off spalling or chunks of the armor on the inside, which then zip around the inside of the tank and do horrible things to the crew. It's not really in vogue these days because people invented spall liners, which really mitigate the effects of something like Hesh. But back in this stage of the Cold War, it was very definitely a thing. It's also got 3 rounds, of 120mm canister. So you also have a giant shotgun if you need it as well. So there's 2 British Army infantry organisations, infantry battalion types, I should say, in BAOR. I'm going to go off the top of my head. There's a 1974 type and a 1977 type. The earlier type is equipped with Wombat. The later type is equipped with Milan, which is hiding behind the hedge. So Milan is an actual ATGM. So none of this look at me, I'm an anti-tank rifle from the future nonsense. It's a 103mm shaped charge guided weapon. Uses SAC-LOS. It's relatively modern at this stage, very long range. It's sort of analogous to the Soviet 87 or 84. It's not quite as chunky as TOW, but as you can see, that translates into being more portable. You can use it with smaller teams. So we have a 2-man team with 4 missiles. That's pretty good. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how that pans out. They somewhat famously used quite extensively in the Falklands for targeting Argentinian bunkers, because yeah, it's an anti-tank weapon, but nobody likes it when a 103mm missile flies in through their firing slit. So that's the UK infantry, UK, British infantry small arms and stuff onto the vehicles. So we mentioned it a minute ago. This is the FV 432. I'm going to mess up all these designations. Yeah, so we have the F430 series. These are all based on the same chassis. The 432 is the infantry APC version. So we have space for about 10 guys in the back, plenty of extra ammo and stuff, smoke launchers, engines up front here. I did a unit guide on the Bulldog, which is basically this, but upgraded for the early 2000s. So yeah, got driver is down here, and then you have a gunner / commander with a Jimpy. That's the usual section level APC. Section, or rather platoon leaders can get this, which is the same thing. It just has the peak turret on it, which is this little thing up here. So basically, I guess the theory is the platoon leader, I guess it won't be because he's the gunner, you get better visibility. As you can see with the ammo, it is designed to help with the 51mm mortar. You've got extra ammunition, smoke and HE bombs in there. So yeah, it's basically the same, it just has a different turret. You have the mortar carrier up next. Exactly the same thing, it just has an 81mm mortar in the back. 144 high explosive bombs, which is a nice amount of high explosive. We've also got the FB 432 with a Wombat in the back. Which, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You can carry more ammunition and zip about without destroying the legs of the crew, trying to drag that gigantic thing around. Hand in hand with that, we don't have a FB 432 with Milan on. Instead, we have the FB 438 Swing Fire. So this is more of a dedicated anti-tank vehicle. It's got Swing Fire ATGMs in this little thing, for want of a better term, on the back. So this is another ATGM. Swingfire is a heavier ATGM than Milan. It's up at 170mm, so quite chunky, bigger than TOW. Come to think of it, pretty sure this thing is an extendable mast that doesn't extend in combat mission. But yeah, I don't know a lot about Swingfire. I'm going to have to find out, but it's an ATGM vehicle. So that's all the F430 variants. And we're going to get onto the CVRTs, which are the Combat Vehicle Reconnaissance Brackets Tracked. Some of these might be familiar if you've played Shock Force. The first of these is the Scorpion. So this is the CVRT hull, and it's got a turret with a 76mm gun on. So this is pretty small. It's relatively, we've got a short barrel, relatively low velocity. It's a reconnaissance vehicle, mostly to be seen speeding away from Soviet armored spearheads. The 76, though, it's got some smoke, so it can put smoke down. It's got HESH, it's got HE, and it's got canister, so even more canister for everyone to enjoy. Moving on from that, Scimitar. Same thing, except it has a 30mm cannon. So this is basically a downgraded version of the one that's in Shock Force, so it's less festooned with electronic warfare equipment and jammers and stuff. Yeah, same cannon as you get on the Warrior. Warrior is not in BAOR. We're too early for that. But it's good at poking holes in BMPs and things. Should be noted that all of these variants, the CVRTs, are very, very lightly armoured. You don't want to get shot at in these at all, but that makes them very speedy. And you have a combination of low weight, so you can see the Scorpion is 7.8 tons, and it's got wide tracks, so it has very good cross-country mobility. in fact, the Scorpions and the Scimitars were the only things in the Falklands that wouldn't sink into the mud. They're actually better at not sinking into the horrible peaty Falklands than the infantry. Which, you know, something ground pressure. Moving on from those two recce vehicles, we have the Striker, which is a CVRT with a load of swing fires stuck on the back. So it's only got 5 missiles, no reloads. But, you know, it's another ATGM vehicle. Very small, nippy. You can get this into a position, fire off some missiles, and then bug out. Nice stuff. We have the Spartan, also features in Shock Force. This is the APC version, so you can fit 5 guys in the back, which would translate into a couple of Milan teams or a recce team, something like that. Useful thing to just have zipping about. And finally, for the CVRTs, we have the Sultan, which is the command variant, which is basically just the same thing, but with more roof in the back. So you can get your maps out, etc. Then we have Chieftain. So we have Chieftain 5 and Chieftain 6. As far as I understand, these are basically the same tank. The difference being that Chieftain 6 is... Well, the difference being that one of them is entirely new production up to that standard. The other one is an older variant of Chieftain which has been upgraded to the Chieftain 5/6 standard. I don't know enough about it. What I do know is that it has a gigantic 120mm gun. Again, with that British predilection for Hesh. It's got some white phosphorus rounds. The armour, I don't think it's got the... I think it was called the Stillbrew upgrade, where it has extra applique armour on the front. It's a kind of an early version of Shobham, but don't quote me on that. We don't have that. They're not tremendously... Well, you don't want to get shot at with anything, but, you know, we're better than an M60, not as good as an Abrams. That's where I'm going to ballpark the armour on the Chieftain here. It does have, however, an underpowered engine. It's not very fast. It's not tremendously mobile. Again, off the top of my head, it's something to do with the engine being very specifically designed as a multi-fuel engine, and this is one of these things where it's like an upcoming NATO standard. Everybody's going to have the same engine, and it's going to use multiple fuels, and that's going to involve compromises, but it's all going to pan out because we're going to have the massive engines available and spare parts across all the different countries, and then the Brits are the only one who actually adopt it, and nobody else does, and we're stuck with this underpowered tank until Challenger comes along. But, you know, you don't want to get shot at by it. In the circumstances that BAOR would have found itself in a Cold War gone hot on the northern German plain, it doesn't need to zip around particularly fast. If you're sitting there waiting on a reverse slope for Soviet armor to turn up, it's fine, no problem. Moving on from the tanks, we have the combat vehicle reconnaissance wheeled, the Fox, which is basically just a 4x4 armoured car with a 30mm cannon on top. I actually can't remember if this is the same turret as the one on the Scimitar, could be. But yeah, it's just a light armoured car. Obviously better on wheeled, better on road, thanks to its thanks to the wheels rather than tracks. The usual stuff applies. It's all about ease of maintenance. Off the top of my head, I think they used in the Berlin Brigade. So yeah, it's just a small nippy 30mm cannon on wheels in an urban environment, not to be sniffed at. Doesn't have any armor, but I think we've already established that getting shot by anything is bad for you. Finally, for the Brits, we've got our set of transport vehicles. So we have a couple of types of Land Rover. This is apparently a Land Rover 101. Looks a lot more like the Pinzgauer. And then the ubiquitous Bedford tonner. Oh, and I should, before I forget, because it was hiding behind the tonner, Land Rover with Wombat. You know, just in case. You've only got 6 rounds and one of them is canister, but, you know, right place, right time, it'll get the job done. So that's the Brits. Lots of new kit. Really interested to see how they play. And we can do a bit of upgrading. We've got Wombat and Striker slash or Milan slash Swingfire to play about with. So it could be an interesting to see the differences between them. The Paras obviously don't get any of the vehicles apart from the Landies and things. So also interesting, they have a couple of slight differences in their TOE off the top of my head. Like there's a patrol platoon, but yeah, otherwise pretty much the same. That brings us on to the Canadians. So down at squad level, the Canadians have got the SLR as well, though they're calling it the C1A1. You might notice here that they are wearing M1 helmets. No camo at all, and that kind of says a lot about where the Canadians are in this period. They're a weird... They have a lot of elements left over from World War II. They do have some modern stuff, but they also have a lot of older stuff mixed in as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they play. Definitely where they scale in between all the other factions here. So we have the FAL as the individual weapon. At squad level, we have C2A1s, which are the squad automatic version of the FAL. Basically, heavier barrel, bigger magazine, bipod, which doubles as the handguard in a very weird and I assume incredibly awkward and annoying way, and automatic fire. So it's an automatic FAL. So in that sense, it is a lot more like the Bren than what the Brits have got with the GPMG. So again, going to be interesting to compare them. They also down at section level, maybe at section level, I can't remember. They do also have the Gustav as well, so they've got that going for them. At platoon level, they have the... Oh, they're facing the wrong way, aren't they? There we go. Everybody remember this guy from World War II? This is the M1919, or in this case the C5, because it's been rechambered for 7.62 NATO. So that's the belt-fed machine gun the Canadians are using at squad level. Off the top of my head, they have like a weapons section at platoon level, where all the fun stuff lives. Yelling at the modern machine guns to get off their lawn. I shouldn't mock. It's perfectly fine. It's just very old compared to the other stuff. And obviously, unlike the Gympie, which has a bipod and a tripod, and you can swap between them if you're using it in the as like a specific weapons team, this is tripod mounted. You can kind of John Basilone it, I guess, but that's not modeled in game, or I haven't noticed that it is. Then there's the Gustav, which we covered. What are you guys? Yeah, this is a what is it? A C3, which looks to me like a kind of militarized, just bog standard bolt action rifle. Nothing to write home about there. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we have a flamethrower. I'm not... I assume they just had some of these on the books. And we're going to ignore the way the wire doesn't go all the way around there. So yeah, you can bring flamethrowers if you want. If you're getting that close, then, you know, the enemy's really screwed up somehow, because they are comically short-ranged. I mean, I guess if you really need to clear some bunkers out, but it's getting them in the right place at the right time. So again, that's like another weird World War II leftover. The Canadians also have blowpipe, which, yeah, the less said the better. Then we get on to the anti-tank stuff, and we have an M40 recoilless rifle. So this is another like kind of earlier anti-tank weapon, 105 millimeters, heat and canister. Again, it's a bit like, it's analogous to an anti-tank gun, but in 105 mil. So it'll take out tanks and BMPs and BTRs effectively enough. It's just old, hard to maneuver. You know, big, heavy, and generally a pain compared to more modern stuff. He says, ironically, coming onto the toe, which is also massive and a pain to cart about, but you've got a bigger warhead. It's the same weapon that the Americans get. And thermal optics, obviously, which is also handy. Finally, on the light mortar side, they have the old 60mm mortar. It's the same one the Americans have. No big deals there. Coming around to the vehicles, the Canadians are tooling around in the M113. So exactly the same weapon that the vehicle that the Americans are using in Combat Mission Cold War. I should point out that the crews are also equipped with Sterling SMGs. They just call it the C1. Compared to the Brits, I guess they have the 50 over the Gympie. I know which one I'd rather have, but again, it's the same vehicle, lightly armored. Everybody jumps in and out the back, etc., etc. This is also familiar. It's the M577, the command variant, same thing. Then we have onto the tank hunters. This is a bit of an interesting beast. This is that same M40 105mm recoilless rifle bolted onto an M113. What's interesting about this compared to the others is that it's retaining the 50. So that's handy. And obviously you get the mobility and extra ammunition and etc. So a useful, slightly antiquated piece of kit compared to the upgrade, which is the M150 the Americans have, which, you know, follows the same trajectory as the crew-served versions. So we just have the tow ATGM instead of the recoilless rifle. So yeah, perfectly serviceable piece of kit. This, on the other hand, I don't know much about this. This is the Lynx, which is a reconnaissance vehicle. So what's interesting about this is that it is another M113. It's just that the engine has been taken out the front and jammed in the back. So you can see we don't have that big rear hatch. We've got the grills, engine grills, all that jazz at the back. And at the front, I guess there's just the driver. So we have this great big cupola, and it's got a 50, and then I guess the pintle-mounted 30 cal there as well. So it's not a 30 cal, it uses 760, but you know what I mean. So it'll be interesting to see how these work. These were replaced off the top of my head by the LAV, which is obviously a significant increase. But that said, there is a variant with a 25mm cannon. So this does have a relatively interesting backstory. It was apparently not actually on the books, and one of those examples of a vehicle designed for but not with. And the concept is that given the outbreak of war, or the likelihood of the outbreak of war, the Canadian government would buy up a load of 25mm cannons and then start bolting them onto their Lynxes. So interesting in that respect. I have no idea how a 25mm cannon is going to do. I'm going to assume that it'll make a mess of BTRs and BMPs, which is what we want generally. It's probably going to need to at least get around the side and definitely around the rear of Soviet tanks if it wants to take them on. Not that it should necessarily be doing that because it's a recce vehicle. So that's all the M113 variants for the Canadians. Now on to the tanks, and we kind of have a weird high-low mix here. This is a Centurion. Ironically enough, crewed by a Sergeant Montgomery there. Centurion is, or was, the first, it's arguably the first main battle tank. It's a British design from, off the top of my head, 1946. It kind of just missed off the end of World War II. It was a very good design, but now we're at least in 1977, and it's getting a bit long in the tooth. That said, it has been significantly upgraded. So we have the usual 105mm gun, which is NATO standard for the time. We've got a 50 cal up top. Where it kind of falls down is, again, it's underpowered. It's a 50-ton tank with a 1940s engine. But actually, I don't know if the engine's been upgraded. Tank grogs, let me know in the comments, etc. It falls off with the targeting. So it just doesn't have the optics, doesn't have a laser rangefinder, targeting computer, that kind of thing. So trying to engage out beyond 1500 meters is kind of tough. It also has older ammunition types as well. So if you are playing the Canadians, unless you want the... it even looks like an old tank. Unless you really want the style points for rolling into battle with a relic, you really want the C2, or sorry, the C1, which is the German Leopard, or one of the German Leopards. The designations are going to confuse the hell out of me. I'm pretty sure it's a Leopard 1. But yeah, much more modern, same gun, better ammunition, better fire control. Off the top of my head, it has a laser rangefinder as well. Though this isn't, I've heard it's not linked into the targeting computer, so you have to do all that stuff manually. So it's not like a modern tank, but it is a lot more modern than the Centurion. Not heavily armored, slightly better armored than the Centurion, but it is pretty nippy. It's the Germans went into the Cold War, or the West Germans at least, went in the Cold War with a different perspective on tanks than the other NATO ally and the other NATO countries. They really were happy to emphasize the speed corner of the Iron Triangle. Guess we can experiment with this and find out if it's a good idea or not at the tactical level that combat mission covers, because obviously there's operational and strategic benefits to, you know, going fast. Finally, for the Canadians, we have some American vehicles, the old Mutt, because people have told me not to call it the Mule, the M151A1, and then just the good old M35 truck. So that's the Canadians. Interesting stuff there. Now obviously I'm not covering the artillery and the air power with this. I have some notes somewhere, but I can't find them. They also have a slightly antiquated artillery park as well, so they're still using 105mm howitzers from World War II. I mean, if it flings HE, then it works, right? It's nothing fundamentally bad about that, but it is... you know, the Brits, for example, are using the Abbott, which is a self-propelled 105mm gun, rather than a towed piece. So yeah, interesting... it's an interesting lineup, should we say. Then we have the VDV. These are Soviet airborne troops. The Soviets obviously have a very different approach to airborne operations compared to the NATO countries. NATO airborne forces are generally light infantry. Soviet airborne forces are light mechanized infantry, or I guess in their term, light motorized infantry. So organizationally, a company of VDV is very, very similar to any other motor rifle company. It just uses different vehicles. There's some slight differences at squad level, and they jump out of planes or deploy via helicopter. That means, at squad level, they're not that different. The key difference is they have an RPG-16 instead of an RPG-7. That's not that big a difference. Off the top of my head, the only major change is that it can be broken into two pieces so you can jump with it easier. Apart from that, your bog standard VDV trooper is mostly armed with an AK and a stripy vest, which presumably is there to give his opponents a sporting chance and let them see him. Slightly more interesting than the infantry are the BMDs. So, in practical tactical terms, this is a BMP-1. It literally has a BMP-1 turret. We've got the old 76mm, or 73, sorry, millimeter gun, and we've got the AT3 Saga on top, and we have a 1P variant which has the AT4 on top. The big change is the hull, which is much, much smaller than a BMP because it's supposed to fit in the back of an aircraft. It's also very lightweight. It's only 7.5 tons. It is possible to power drop these. They have rocket arrays just below the parachutes that fire before it hits the ground, equalize the drop speed, so you can actually drop these out of aircraft. This is part of where you get this other approach that the Soviets have. So the whereas a NATO airborne unit might deploy on or immediately next to an objective, the Soviets are more concerned with dumping a battalion several kilometers away, getting properly organized, and then attacking it almost as they would if they were just a standard motor rifle unit. So, yeah. It's only got space for 6 bodies in the back, and they are comically crammed in there. As you can kind of see, there's not really any hatches back here. The crew hop in and out the front. Very cramped. Squads of 6 men are not casualty resistant in the slightest. They are somewhat supposed to fire to engage from their vehicles. Nobody sits in the back here, so you don't really have the firing ports. I mean, I guess there's one here, but there's 2 forward-facing PK machine guns in ball mounts. Let me see if I put some of these guys in here. Yeah, you see that squad is taking up the PKs. So they can put quite a lot of fire out to the front. How useful that is, I would say, somewhat questionable. One of the problems, the BMP is so lightly armored, you don't really want to be in it if it's getting shot at. In particular, I want to see what happens when a bunch of guys with SLRs shoot at this. I bet it doesn't end well for the BMD. But yeah, everybody else kind of grew out of just bolting machine guns to things in the late or even the early 30s. I mean, this almost looks like the original Stuart or Sherman tanks the Americans had, which just have machine guns everywhere. But, extra firepower, why not? This one, yeah, we already covered this, is the BMP 1P, exactly the same. It just has the AT4 on top of the AT3. Then we have the you can go back inside. The BTRD, which is the same thing, but a troop carrier variant. So you can fit a couple more bodies in. You've still got the MGs in the front. Smoke launchers, no turret, obviously. Exactly the same, it's just for carrying troops. Then we have this thing, which is, what is it? The BMD-1KSH, which is the command variant. You can see it's got all the aerials and stuff on, so obviously, if you see this, shoot it first. Next up, the last of the BMD variants, this is the Nona. I'm used to calling it a Nona S. I think that's just the more modern version. It's a self-propelled 120mm mortar, the 2S9. So yeah, this gives the VDV some more fire support. They do have obviously normal 120mm mortars and 122mm D30 howitzers that they can play with. But having a self-propelled mortar is also useful. This doesn't work as a mortar if it is on map. In BAOR, it's more like a self-propelled gun, and the ability to just roll up and start chucking 120mm high explosive at things is always really handy, isn't it? So they're quite useful. Also handy is another self-propelled gun. This really does look like it's straight out of World War II, but apparently it's not. This is the ASU-85. It's an 85mm gun. I'm pretty sure you can't drop this out of an aircraft, but you can fit it in the back of one, and it is just a support vehicle. You can see from the ammo loadout, we 32 rounds of HE, 8 heat, and 5 AP. Also very lightly armoured. How this is going to fare against modern or more modern tanks like the M60, Chieftain, and the Leopard, I have no idea. But it's an interesting piece of kit. It kind of looks cool. It's got an S-tank vibe with the kind of no turret. Obviously not as cool as the S-tank itself. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to get them into action and see how they do. And of course you've got the VDV icon on the front, just in case you needed somewhere interesting to aim. Finally, got the GAZ-66, which is just a truck. You would have thought that the Soviets would have been able to standardize the trucks that they had, but now we have three. We got the Ural, the ZIL, and the GAZ. So make of that what you will. It's a truck. It's not that interesting. And finally, the ZSU-23, which is a static AA gun. You can't move these around in game. At least I think you can't. Can you? No, we can't. I thought you could tow it. I think that might just be the Wombat. Yeah, dual 23mm cannon, fires API. Also has stripy vested crew. It's a nice asset to have. These are always good targets if you're making a scenario and you need to raid an air defense unit or something like that. They're probably going to be very effective against infantry or APCs, M13s, FV432s, things like that. Maybe less effective at shooting down aircraft or fast movers, at least. Could be good against helicopters, I don't know. But yeah, interesting piece of kit. It's just an AA gun. There's not that much to say about it. So yeah, that is a quick rundown of all the new stuff in the BAOR module as modelled on Batus. Obviously, when we go to Germany, all the British camo here is green and black, like you might expect. But yeah, hopefully that's given you a bit of insight into what you're getting if you decide to go and buy BAOR. There's definitely some stuff in here I want to mess with. Definitely I want to see how the British infantry stack up, given the SLRs and the Jimpies. And yeah, I think that'll about do as a quick impromptu video. Hope you all enjoyed that. I think there's a lot to look forward to here, and I'll see you in future videos where we'll get stuck in and explore it.